unleash your inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Thank you so much for joining us for another hour of meaningful and deeply insightful conversation. Today, we are going to be talking about why is it important for each of us to truly, meaningfully understand the importance of time and the illusion of time. How do we understand it? How do we relate to it? And how do we navigate it is going to determine how successful and how impactful our life is. You know, a lot of times people talk about goals and accomplishments, but we are living at a time where goals without impact and doing without being aware of the timeliness of the impact doesn't serve the ultimate purpose. So as we embrace life and as we embrace our purpose to live a meaningful life, let's also layer in the importance of understanding the illusion of time and what does that mean to you and how you can best leverage that to create your impact. To me, as we get started, I wanted to set the stage up from the perspective of coming from a Hindu tradition. For me, when I say me, it's not my body, it's my soul. And my soul is eternal while this body has a timeline. At best, I can live for 100 years, but that's a finite time. When we greet each other this way because my soul sees the light and purpose of yours. And at that point of recognition, we are one. So for me, the journey of the soul is timeless. And in this bodily world, time is an illusion because we feel like there is an eternity there. We feel like there is a lot we can accomplish. And how do I permanently understand the difference between the ethereal, worldly being and then the journey of the soul? And how do I make sure that in this life, I'm creating the impact my soul needs to as it moves on beyond the lifespan of this body? So I am always going to come from that place. And I am super excited to have a guest all the way from Belgium, traveling the world and making his impact, François de Neuville. Thank you so much. And I am so sorry, I probably pronounced your last name wrong. So can you please come on and say your full name and correct me? And let's get started in this beautiful conversation, François.
Yeah, thank you, Cass. My name is François de Neuville, and don't worry about pronouncing it wrong. It's quite tricky to pronounce, so whatever, François is good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So as we get started, François, I want you to take a step back and talk about how did you, in your life journey, get to where you are to do what you're doing? Because giving insight to who you are as a being and how you got here is important to set up the context.
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up in Belgium with this desire since I was young to go travel the world. And instead of going to do that, I first joined the military where I served for 9 years. I became a platoon leader in the commando paratroopers there. And this really helped me understanding what it means to show up as your best, to push your limits, to accept challenge, to be ambitious, and just to show up every single day. Now, I still had this super big desire to go and travel all around the world and actually did it. So one day I quit everything. I sold everything I had, I put in a backpack and I left to travel the world. So I've been traveling now for the past 7 years, living a nomadic life, which was, it is just amazing to be able to discover so much, explore different places, get in contact with different culture, meet new people. It's very, very rewarding. I really value novelty a lot, and this is how I get it. Then really what brought me to this moment, what made me actually, everything is said, but there was one event that really changed everything for me. I was in Indonesia in 2018, and I miraculously survived an earthquake and a tsunami. This was a very traumatic event that killed 4,000 people, including some of my friends. And I'm not going to lie, I went through a very dark phase after that because I could not find any meaning and I could not just allow myself to feel joy again. But eventually I realized everything that taught me. And talking about this illusion of time, that's really where it increased my awareness about our mortality. And I love what you said is this distinction between our physical body and our soul journey, which is wonderful. And it made me realize a lot how to make the most of both journeys, right? How to maximize your time in your physical body in this moment on earth, and also further your soul purpose. And I find it very beautiful. And there was one word that came to my mind when you were talking. It's like, yeah, the only way to do that is intentionality. We need to be very intentional about everything we do so we can go further in our mission, in our journey, right? And so all of those events that happened to me really helped me to understand how can I be more intentional every single day so I can create success, fulfillment, having an impact, and really finish my days in this physical body and this very moment, feeling 100% fulfilled, feeling like I have lived.
Mm-hmm. And that is a beautiful place to be, right? Normally what happens to us either makes us or breaks us.
Yeah.
And I am excited to see how it allowed you to become who you were meant to be. And this is one thing you and I share. I'm from Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka got the direct hit of the tsunami. So we've both been through the tsunami. We've both been through the after effects of the tsunami, helping build lives and families and community post-tsunami. And that is unlike any other devastation, because the very existence of something and somebody is completely wiped out. The fact that there were villages there, there were people there, there were animals there, the ocean has completely consumed everything, and it's a blank canvas. And to go back and see, oh my God, there is no trace of somebody ever having been here. There was no trace of who was here, is a huge eye-opener to realize, just like that, life ends.
Yeah.
And so what do we do intentionally to leave an impact? And how am I going to live the rest of my life? And that was your epiphany. So when you came to that realization, how did you start changing your mindset? Because there's something freeing about packing up everything and whatever you can carry on your back, you're moving on with life. That's very freeing, right? Because you literally have no physical baggage.
Yeah.
But the emotional baggage doesn't get cleaned out that easy.
No, definitely.
Did you deal with that? How did you deal with that?
Yeah. So the first big realization that I had that helped me move forward was there are two truths, and it's uncomfortable. The first one is that we're all going to die. And the second is that nobody knows when. And it sounds a bit scary when you say it, and people are usually afraid of death. It depends on which culture. Some culture embrace it more than others. But in general, we don't really like to face our own mortality. We all know it, but being aware about it and thinking how I'm going to make sure I make the most of the time that I've been given. This is the first question that I started asking myself. Now, definitely, as you said, when you don't have physical anchors that keeps you in one place, when you feel free, but you always have this emotional baggage that we are carrying around. And it's very important to be able to clear that up as it's keep piling up in your backpack, let's say, right? So to come back to one of the things that you said at the beginning, it can make you or it can break you. And I had this epiphany a few months after the double natural disaster. So I was in this very dark place, and I was so angry, so mad at life, because I could not understand what I've seen, all this suffering. That was really disgusting me. I was like, come on. And I was so mad. And then I realized, well, for all the people that I lost, for all the suffering that I witnessed, I am still here. I am still healthy. I'm still alive. I have the duty to make the most out of it. And that day, I promised myself to live every single day of my life to the fullest and inspire other people to do the same. And that day, everything switched, because from being a victim, I became a survivor. And this shift of mindset really empowered me to take back control of everything. And I think this is one of the big flip that we need to make when we are experiencing something traumatic in our lives, is that we are a victim of the event until we decide to take control of it. And then we become a survivor of it, right? A victor. And so How do we do that? It's not that easy, right? I think the
Mhm.
moment we can take a little bit of perspective and understand what have we learned from that traumatic event? What can we take away from that and apply it in our present and future to live a better life after? This is the empowering phase. Instead of being devastated, you start being empowered, and then you start being more intentional. And if you commit to it, you create a better life, right? This transition is very key. Now, you would have told me in 2018, when this happened, oh, it must be for the best. I would have punched you in the face. Let's be clear. I was not in the place to accept any of that, because we need a moment to process whatever happened. Now, there is one message that I really want to be clear is the moment that we grow from something that created a lot of pain, it doesn't make the pain go away, right? If you lose your partner and then you're in this really dark phase of your life because you need to process it's grieving, after there is a moment you start feeling a little bit better, you start enjoying life again, and maybe you find another partner. That doesn't mean that the pain is away. That doesn't mean that you should be judged by people for moving. Okay, cultural differences is there, but still, the fact that we don't suffer doesn't diminish the pain. And that's the big difference between pain and suffering, because pain is there as a natural, it's something that tells the body that something is wrong, physically or emotionally, right? It's an alarm system. And thank God it's there, because if it was not there, we would die with no warning, right? We need the pain to understand that something is not going well, right? The suffering, though, it is what we do with that pain. So in general, we are not very good at accepting the pain that we have. And so we fight it. And because we are in this phase of non-acceptance of what is and what we can change, it creates a lot of frustration, bitterness, depression, and all those negative feelings. And that's the suffering. But you realize that the moment you accept whatever happened and you decide to take on what you can take from it and keep moving on, that doesn't make the thing go away. Obviously not. The pain is always going to be there, but the suffering starts fading away. And you start being empowered, and you can really rebuild from that moment.
And that is a brilliant way to explain that transformation an individual needs to go, right? The pain and the numbness will always be there. It's almost like scar tissue, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have an overgrowth, you're going to get past it, but you never forget it.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the fuel to propel you forward.
Yeah, exactly.
And so your mind can go there, but your mind also has tools to keep you moving forward. And part of the success of that mindset transformation is being able to be in the moment. Because too many times people think about everything that has happened and then project it into the future and then suffer between the past and the future, and never ever take a moment to live in the moment, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so other than meditation to ground you and bring you to the present, what are some of the things that you did intentionally, practically, to take you from the past, to move you from the past to the present? Because something you did allowed you to completely pack up your physical life and move without getting too caught up in worrying about the future. That means you were able to unclutter your past and free your being, right? And your being is then helping you as a person. So your soul is helping your body go along for the transformation. What were some of the things you did?
Yeah. What I realized is that we are living in so much fear when we keep rehearsing the past, the future, when we stay not here and now, right? And that creates a lot of anxiety in general. But I realized, I love this quote that says, the present is the future of your past. Whatever is in the future is in imagination. It's not there yet. And so it can completely change. We have a lot of control. We cannot control everything, but we can control a lot of things, right? And so I focused on what can I control? And that's how I started my journey into personal growth, because I realized, well, I can control my body. I can learn to master my body, master my mind, master my emotion, go deeper into spirituality. And this, to me, this self-mastery is the path to create success and fulfillment in your life. So I started learning about how to get healthier, how to get fitter, how to just feel good every day when I wake up. And that goes, of course, with movement, nutrition, well-being, self-care, etc. And then I went for my mind. Okay, I want to be smarter. I want to learn things. What can I do to go deeper into my process of understanding the world, understanding myself? And then our emotions, right? A lot of time we have emotions. Either we put them away, we deny them, or we overreact about them. I mean, all of those things, it's kind of trying to understand who we are as a human being and finding the manual to understand ourselves, which is very complex and it takes time. This is the journey. And I don't think I'm going to get to the end in this lifetime, but this is part of the soul journey, right? And so that's the last piece, is feeling this, going deeper into spirituality, whatever your beliefs are. I think it's so important to go beyond what we can see, beyond this physical realm, and understanding our place in the universe, right? That sounds a bit, for some people, that sounds, yeah, of course. Some others are like, yeah, you too woo-woo right now. Well, everybody has his own journey. Everybody is where they are. But I think asking yourself those questions is really empowering to keep growing, because this is what we want. And going from this quote from Emile Coué, every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. This is like a mantra. Every morning I wake up, every day before I go to sleep, I read that quote and I like, did I get better today? And if every single day I get better, even just 1%, compounding that on a lifetime, you achieve tremendous changes. And so for me, it all started about what are the main drives for humans, right? Understanding what is pushing us forward. And we have our goals, etc. But then I realized, are the goals that I have really mine? Do I have ever taken the time to really sit down and ask myself, what do I want to feel, do, experience in this lifetime? And usually we realize, like, what a lot of things are coming from external sources. We define success with what we see on the media. And we tend to chase success more than fulfillment. But we realized, because after talking to so many people who are very successful, but feeling very unfulfilled, that something is wrong, because people don't really take the time to define their own metrics for success. And so that was one of the most powerful steps that I did. I sat down, took a blank page of paper, and I started writing. The day I'm going to die, if I look back at my life, what do I want to see in there? What are the people I spent time with? What did I do? What did I experience? What was my impact on others? Where did I live? Etc. And the list goes on and on and on. And that's a very famous exercise we can do. It's writing your eulogy, and writing what people would tell the day of your funeral. And it was very powerful, because I realized, well, if I want to get there, then I can just go backward and understand, what do I need to do? And especially, who do I need to be? And that's the second part of it, is that we keep having to-do lists. But there is not really something emotional linked to a to-do list. We just cross an item and it's gone. It's so much more important to create a to-be list, because when you actually change your identity, when you change the way you show up, automatically you start doing the thing that you should be doing. And so that's going one level deeper into creating, like, yourself as the full creative expression of who you are and who you want to be. And then commitment would be the last part, is really, now that you have this vision, that you really know for yourself what you want to create in your life, is being committed to do it, right? There was this author, Maya Wader, as I was saying in her book Dreams, are you more committed to your dream or to your reality? Most people, they are more committed to reality. They are more committed to keep the life that they have than their dreams, and their dreams stays dreams, and they don't become goals, and they don't commit to achieve them, right? So I think going through all this process of personal development, and it's an ongoing process, right? I was creating this formula, trying to crack the code of how to be excellent at anything, because excellent, I think, is the ultimate things you can reach. Excellence, it's the mastery level. But first, you need to increase your awareness. And it's not always easy, right? Because, for example, let's say you're unhealthy and you don't really want to see the reality as it is, or you broke and you don't want to face that you have issues with managing money, etc. I like this saying that says, listen to your bank account, to the mirror, to the pull-up bar. They don't lie. Maybe it's not what you want to hear, but it's probably what you need to hear in order to change. So when you develop this awareness, then you can start taking ownership, right? Because you need to realize, what is my part of responsibility into the situation where I am in right now? And we have a lot. Usually we try to not be in the driver's seat because it hurts to say, oh, that's because of my behavior, actions, thoughts, etc., that I got here today. Yeah, but if you don't take ownership, you're going to stay in the status of a victim. You're not going to empower yourself to actually change, right? So this is so important to take ownership of it. And then when we are aware, take ownership, you can start taking action. But one action is not going to lead you really far. Let's say you want to build a big bicep. You go to the gym, you do one curl. Okay, then you look, come on, grow. Not going to work this way, right? It's sustained action over time that's going to lead you to result. And to take sustained action over time, it's self-discipline. So you're going to have to build this self-discipline so you stay committed and very intentional about what you want to achieve in your life. Now, a lot of people come to me and like, well, you talk like so strict, etc. No, it's not strict. You have a misunderstanding that discipline is freedom. Right? If you want financial freedom, you need financial discipline. If you want to move your body freely, etc., you need self-discipline to nourish yourself well, move it, taking well care of yourself, right? In every situation, discipline brings you freedom. And I served for 9 years in the military. Believe me, I understand the word discipline very well. And as much as I was frustrated in those moments, I did realize that it creates so many automatism in my life that's really helping me live better. And actually, when you build this self-discipline, that takes away all this energy that you spend making decisions. You behave automatically the way you should behave, because when you are disciplined, you change who you are. So instead of saying, I need to eat a salad today, a to-do, you transform that to a to be, I am a healthy person. And to stay a healthy person, it requires discipline. But when you're a healthy person, well, I don't eat chips. I don't overdrink alcohol. All of those things are automatically not coming into my mind because I am not that. And so it's very easy to make choices, or at least easier to make choices. And so discipline is the fourth step. And then you go back to awareness because it's never ending, right? When you go there, you can, okay, I'm moving forward. I am not there yet. And are you ever going to get there yet? I don't think so. This is a continual growth, right? There is nobody that says, oh, I'm at the end of my personal growth. No, it's never going to happen. And so it's striving for excellence, striving to get a little bit better than the person you were yesterday. And so if you apply this model, awareness, ownership, action, discipline, and you keep doing it over and over again, you really start creating self-mastery in your life. Apply that to every category, and you just get better every single day. And then when you're better, you can start really impacting others better, right? And I can tell for all the people I had deep conversation with, most of my clients, that's the same. Every time we go deep into the mission, it comes something that is including other people, right? I never heard someone say, oh, my life's purpose is something alone, right? There is always other people involved, right? There is always this desire to impact other people's life. And that's great. This is how keeps everybody grow together, right?
So I truly appreciate you walking us through that 4-step process. And what was impactful there is the reminder that it's never one and done. It is a continuous improvement cycle. So just like anything we build can be continually improved, we can be continually improved. So the realization that I am a work in progress, but progress I must. When I come to that realization, then I'm only competing against myself. Am I better today than I was yesterday? And that also allows me not to compete with others, to collaborate with others. All of those other pieces fall into place. And to me, that is the power of what you just explained. Now, one thing has been niggling at the back of my mind, so I have to ask. It's easier for women to think about emotions and their feelings and think about their intentionality from the place of their feelings. What do you feel you need to accomplish? How do you feel about what you're doing? Sons are raised, rightly or wrongly, in most cultures, not to feel. And so it's harder for a man. And they don't do that introspective journey. Even when it comes to coaching, women take to it so much easily than men. So I'm looking at you, and your background is military. You are the definition of a man's man, right? Because there is that masculinity of power and a warrior. But you have very easily allowed your feelings and your emotions to take an equal seat with that masculinity, because emotions and feelings are considered a femininity trait. But we all embody the masculinity and the femininity, right? They're all inside of us.
Yeah.
How do you balance that so that you don't, the world gets to see your masculinity, but the power of your impact is your ability to embrace your femininity, right? How do you translate that and pass it on to other men who don't always grasp it?
Wow, that was really beautiful what you said. And I really appreciate you put that out, because it's such an important point. And just before I dive into it, as you said that we are a work in progress, I think it's really important to remember that it's not really about the goal itself. It's enjoying the process of creation. It's really enjoying the process of creating yourself over and over again every single day. And when you realize that life is creation, that you are creation, and that's the process that really matters, and that's what you need to enjoy. You get it. At the end of the day, you feel so fulfilled about living that, I'm not really afraid of death anymore, because I am content, because I know it's not really one place to go, it's the process of going that is very fulfilling. So there's just a little thing that I wanted to add on what you said. And then talking about feeling, this is a very important point that you raised, because it was not always easy. And I can tell you, I've been struggling a lot with this, exactly as you said, with my military background, etc. Feeling didn't really have a big place in my mental dashboard. We all have them, but often we put them aside, we deny them, we don't want to hear them. And I'm a very rational person. And so I'm married with a woman who is super sensitive, hypersensitive. So we kind of learned together about how to make the most out of both sides. And I'm really starting opening about listening to every other thing that my body is communicating, because your emotions, it's an amazing system that's indicating you so many things. It gives you so much information about your environment, about yourself, right? It's information that we are usually unconscious of. We can sense so many things that we cannot always process rationally, right? The intuition, etc. And I realized, well, if I want to master myself, I'm going to have to dive deep into that. And because I'm striving for excellence, that's easy for me to go to the gym and have a very intense workout and nutrition plan, but sitting with my emotions and really trying to feel what I feel and give it words, etc., was not easy. And unfortunately, as you said, in general, in the society, men having feeling is not super well seen everywhere, especially with men into leadership position. But I never really understood. No, it's not that I don't understand. I understand where it's coming from. It's all about vulnerability, right? And we think when we're in a position of leadership, we should not be vulnerable. And yes and no. First of all, you need to be able to be a strong rock for the people that you lead. You need to be able to show everyone that you got your thing together, right? That you are there for a reason and they can lean on you and you can guide them. And you're going to be, I don't really like to use the word strong, but you're going to be there for them. Right? This is very important. In the same times, you need to be relatable. You're not a robot. We're not a machine, right? We all feel things. And there is nothing wrong by just being human. And so what I realized is that the more I put those feelings and emotions away, the less relatable I am. The less, Brené Brown is saying in her work, the first thing that we want to see in others is vulnerability. The last thing we want to show to others is vulnerability. So it's paradoxal. But through vulnerability, that's the only place when we create meaningful connection, that we can actually build trust, exchange love. That comes from vulnerability. So it's not about being strong, but it's about being brave. And being brave is also making space for those uncomfortable feelings that we have and being courageous enough to put them into words, right? I think that makes us just more human. And if you don't want to show this part of your humanity, but people are never going to relate to you, you can be a leader. I mean, you can be a leader that doesn't show any vulnerability and that is 100% robot. But usually it creates this ambience of fear. This is not great leadership for me. Great leadership is someone that can be relatable to everyone and say, hey, I'm human. I'm like you. I'm in this position. I'm there to serve you. I'm there to help you. But I also feel stuff, right? So I think it's so important to be able to embrace all our emotions. And yes, it takes time. And yes, it takes practice. And yes, it takes a lot of courage. But if you want to get better at who you are, if you want to get better at life, you're going to have to make space for it.
Absolutely. And to me, I always go back to, it's easier to raise our voice, to embrace their vulnerability, and remember that being vulnerable actually takes more courage, right? Yeah. It takes courage to be kind. Why are people not kind to one another? Because they're afraid if I'm kind, somebody will take advantage of me, right? To be kind and humane and yet hold the ground on boundaries takes courage, it takes humanity, and it takes finesse. Because without losing your humanity, you can do it all. How do we raise our daughters to embrace courage as part of their femininity trait? And how do we raise our sons to truly embrace the vulnerability? Because it is also an aspect of courage, because otherwise it's just, to me, it's false bravado, right? Yeah. Without vulnerability, the strength is false bravado. If we had vulnerability, then it is courageous. And it's easier to raise them that way than transform them later because the programming is already done.
Exactly.
So what advice would you have for parents?
Yeah, that's a very deep question. The only way I can answer that is to lead by example. Especially with kids, you can ask them to do things that you don't do yourself. And so if you want to be a better parent, you're going to get better yourself. You're going to have to do the work first yourself. And so you can model that for your kids. And also there is another distinction, and Brené Brown I recommend everyone to check her work. She's so phenomenal. She's bringing a lot of things about that. She did so much research. There is a difference between being vulnerable and oversharing things, right? We need to find the fine line between oversharing stuff that are no point and sharing our true feelings, right? I think it's about daring to share what we think. I mean, this is integrity, right? I say what I think and I do what I say. So I think if you show up like this as a parent, you create already the good example. And this is the only thing that we are for our kids. We can just create the right environment for them to grow and discover themselves. I think it gets a bit too tricky. I don't want to go in this path, but when we see ourselves as we own our children and we make them the way we want them to be, but we guide the path, we put guidelines here and there, and we let them grow. We support their growth, right? By being there for them. And so that's not satisfying a hidden agenda that we have inside from our own wounds from when we grew up, right? Oftentimes it comes from there. But anyway, to go back to this, you're going to have to lead by example. I think this is the only thing I can really say. Now, it's about to recognize when you should be vulnerable and when you should not. And I do think personally that there is a moment you should not. And I can say an example I shared in my book. I was hiking in the Himalayas with my wife, and she had never been hiking. We went for a 21-day hike in winter to go to Everest Base Camp. It was snowing. It was really tough conditions, right? We were walking with like 15 to 20 kilo bags. And one day we wanted to cross a path that was closed because of the weather. And we said, okay, we are the first people who are going to open the pass again. That was at 5,800 meters. So it's high, it's winter, -20, a lot of snow. And we start like in the middle of the night hiking there, and we walk and the snow was there and I could not see the path. because everything was covered. So I had this map that was really not accurate. I was looking around. I was scared for avalanches and everything. And I was super scared. I'm not gonna lie. My wife next to me was putting all her trust on me because she had no experience in the mountain. At that moment, if I would have started sharing all my vulnerabilities, like, oh, I feel so insecure right now, I'm scared, I'm panicked, etc., would have helped her? No, she would just have panicked as well. That would not have served any purposes. So in that moment, I did not share all the feelings that I had. I just put everything, like, I acknowledge what I was feeling because it gives me a lot of information that it's dangerous, you should be careful, this is not a game, etc. So I took all the information I needed from those emotions and I understood them and I kept going. Later on, I explained how I felt at that time and we had a beautiful conversation about it. But if at that moment I was too vulnerable, that would not have worked. Another example, I have a friend who explained that one day he was at the dinner table and he was sharing things and he started crying. And he's a father of two. And one of his sons said, "Dad, I don't like to see you cry." And I think it's important to see where is the boundary here. Where's the boundary that you keep your, you keep the face of who you are by being a rock, a solid ground for other people in your life that depends on you, but you're also there to share your emotion. And what I think, no, I might be wrong, but this is just my own interpretation of that. We should be open about our vulnerabilities and explain how we feel about something that happened in the past and explain that in the present. Sometimes, because of the position that we are having, our position, we should not always disclose everything about the present moment, right? Exactly the thing that happened in the mountain with my wife. I don't know if that gives a bit of clarity. I don't know what you think about that. What would be your takeaway on when you should show vulnerability and when you should not? Because it's a very interesting conversation.
Absolutely. And men and women approach it differently because their styles are different.
Yeah.
Right. So I will give you an example of what just happened last weekend.
Yeah.
I am currently doing some work in the country of Belize, and I have a home in Belize. And the family down the street got a huge ATV for Christmas and gave it to their child who's less than 10 years old. So he puts two of his other friends, and these kids are riding an ATV like mad hatters, ripping up the park across my street, and they almost crashed into my fence twice. So I was sitting with my two interns and we were working, and I said, let me walk out there and talk to the kids. So my interns are waiting to see what I was going to do. Everybody expected me to go yell at the kids. So I went there, I put my hand out and asked the kids to slow down. And I asked them which house they lived in, who their parents are the parents aware that they're riding? They said, yes. I said, do you realize your parents love you very much? They said, yes. I said, what would they do if anything happened to you? If one of you fell off, flew off, got hurt, if one of you, God forbid, died, how do you think it will make your mommy and daddy feel? They said, oh, they'll cry. I said, then do me a favor. I don't know you, and it'll break my heart if you got hurt. So why don't you be careful and make sure an adult is with you before you ride this vehicle? Because all of us want to see you happy. We all want to see you healthy. We also want you to have fun, but have fun in a responsible way, because we don't want to feel sad because you did something to yourself or you did something to your friend. How would you feel if your friend flew off the ATV and broke their neck? And they're like, oh, yes, yes. And then they stop riding for the day, right? So my moment was about worried about the children, worried about the emotions the parents are going to go through. And I shared it in a way that it made sense to the kids. So I was being vulnerable with intention, but sharing with them in the way that it made sense to them from the perspective of what is in it for me. It was not about me, it was about them. So to me, being vulnerable from the perspective of how can I guide you to have a fulfilling life and you be safe and you continue to pursue your purpose, that is taking my vulnerability and my ability to be vulnerable and taking my self-awareness and flipping it into the social awareness piece to build a more reliable and authentic relationship. So I come at it from a slightly different perspective, because vulnerability from my self-awareness is only for me, right? And it can be perceived as self-serving. But emotional intelligence is about being self-aware, being socially aware, and then integrating the two to be relationally responsible and making it about our shared prosperity. And when I am able to when I coach leaders, that's where I'm taking them. Vulnerability is not everything about how you're feeling. It's about how do you take how you're feeling and make it impactful for others on how is this going to help shape them, right?
Yeah, I love this add-on on the perspective. This is so powerful. I think there is a lot of speaking from your heart, right? When you have all those feelings coming on and like you want to share something, you speak from your heart, and that's what is powerful.
Yeah. So my interns were so surprised. They're like, you talk to them with such love. I'm like, there's nothing more powerful than love. Anger doesn't accomplish anything. If I went there and yelled at them, they would have been writing twice as fast and twice as loud. Because that's what boys do, right? Because you just took a red fabric and, waved it in front of a bull.
Yeah.
That doesn't go anywhere.
No, totally. Yeah, speaking from your heart, I think it's such a powerful thing to remember. And I want to take this idea and broaden it to a lot of things. Often we put the mask on, right? We don't dare to share, or we pretend different things. I think when you really can tap into, you know what, I'm just me. And I love to remember every time I'm a bit doubting of sharing stuff, that some people are going to love me and some people are going to hate me. And that's okay. This is how it is, right? And I know I just put a book out. I know some people are going to love the book and maybe some people are going to hate it. But whatever you do, you're going to have haters everywhere. And I like to say, hurt people, right? Sometimes happen. You can see online so many people doing great things and being having really negative comments, and you're like, come on, but whatever, this is what it is. But so whatever you do, you're gonna have haters and people who love what you do. So better be you, better be so 100% authentic and embrace that.
Absolutely. And with that, before I open this up for conversation, I want you to take a moment and share the information about your book and where folks can pick up your book. That is important.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just published my book like 2 weeks ago, and it's now available on Amazon. The title of the book is The Illusion of Time, 11 Lessons on How Not to Suck at Life. And so the book explains my journey through the tsunami and the earthquake that devastated a part of Indonesia in 2018, how I survived that. And I kind of wrote the book for a little girl that I rescued in the debris of a hotel. She was 5 years old at the time. And of course, we really created a special bond together, because when the tsunami hit, we were on the beach. I climbed in the tree and I had her in my arms. And so I wrote this book to share different wisdom that I learned in my life and how she could apply that to live a better life, to not be like I was in that tree that day, looking at my life flashing by in front of my eyes and be like, oh shit, right? Because then it's too late. And so this book is really, I wrote it to give people the tool to get better at life, to understand that we have just a finite amount of time and we need to treat it seriously, because every second that's passing, it's your life that is ticking away. It sounds a little bit dramatic, but only when you really understand that, you can empower yourself to do whatever you need to do to create the life that you really want to live a created life. So the book is available on Amazon. You can find it on The Illusion of Time, or you type my name with it, you're going to find it. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Francois. And everybody has your LinkedIn profile so that they can contact you. So with that, I am going to open it up for a conversation with our audience. I want to take at least a couple of questions. We have about 10 minutes here.
Hey, Cass. This is Marquise.
Hey, Marquise.
Francois, I don't have a lot of questions. I have more to think about. I really appreciate everything you shared. And I remember that tsunami from afar and how it was a catalyst to me as to how life can change in a moment's notice. And so yeah, I can't wait to buy your book and read it and devour it, and the lessons you shared. I've already posted one of them. Are you paying more attention to your dreams or to reality? It really stuck out to me. And I guess the one question that did cross my mind was, what level of influence did your parents have on shaping how you think, or did that really all kick in from that life-changing moment with the tsunami and the earthquake?
Yeah, thank you so much, Marquise. Well, I grew up in a very, very loving family. I'm very blessed of that. So I've been really supported since I'm really young. Now, I had all those tools when I grew up, but really this day that I faced death so close, that really changed everything. I was kind of the stubborn guy, a bit judgmental, etc. And this really turned my world upside down. And I realized, and this is another powerful insight that I got, you don't need to wait for a traumatic event to start changing your life, right? Too often, people are waiting to be laying down on a hospital bed to say, oh, I should take care of my health. Too often, we wait for being in a divorce before being like, oh, I should have invested in this relationship, right? We let things slip so far before we take action. You don't need to be in a car crash, a plane crash, a tsunami, or whatever it is to start taking control back of your life. And I love what you said, Marquise, at the beginning of your question. You said, well, it's a lot of things to think about. Yes, and that's what I realized. We don't spend enough time to think about our life. And this is something that I completely changed now. And every day I spend enough time, because we are worth it. We are worth to focus on ourselves, to know where we're going. Because the same thing, otherwise we wait till the last moment and we drifted all around and we're like, oh, damn, what was that all about? Now it's gone. I should. And I said, I'm not going to die with a to-do list. I'm not going to die saying I should have done more or be more. Because those are the questions that I thought about when I was in that tree, when I thought I was just about to die. And so that's really the wisdom I want to share with people so they can make the work right now, today, right? To start really rethinking their life and making sure that they live intentionally. Because it is so easy in this society to let other external factors determine the way you live, right? Society, parents, education, everything. And then you realize that's kind of the midlife crisis. When you live the life and then you realize, well, I didn't live my life. No, I'm going to start doing what really matters. Well, you don't have to wait. You can start doing that today.
Thank you so much for that question, Marquise, and love how you integrated that answer, Francois. Thank you. And it's true, thinking is important. I believe it's an ancient Latin philosopher who said, I think, and therefore I am, right?
Yeah.
And we also then need to take the time to feel, right? A lot of times people think and act and then worry about how I feel. And sometimes the actions don't give them the outcome they want because it didn't create the feeling they expected. So thinking is important, but so is being honest about our feelings.
Thank you so much,
And if we can integrate our thinking and feeling, then our actions become truly intentional. Go ahead, Francois.
No. This is so great. I'm so happy you brought that up, because it's actually all about feeling. Whatever goal that you have, it's because you expect to make you feel a certain way. And so we tend to have things the wrong way around, right? You should just ask yourself, how do I want to feel on a daily basis? And from there, you create your life, right? Instead of saying, oh, I want a Ferrari. Why? Oh, it's going to make me feel that. Oh, what are other ways that are my ways to create those feelings in my life? So it's all about actually the feeling that you want to experience. It starts from there. When you're a kid and you have all this ambition of being something when you grow up, ask yourself, what did I thought that I would feel by becoming a lawyer, a doctor, a veterinary, or whatever it is, right? And recreate those feelings, because those feelings didn't change. Those aspirations to feel a certain way are still there. Right. And when I ask people, oh, can you give me your life vision 5 years from now? I'm like, well, I don't know. Okay, how do you want to feel? And everybody knows that. Everybody knows how they want to feel on a daily basis. And this is so, so important. And just a very short story, but it's really this moment that we don't take the time to think or to feel, right? To listen to our thoughts and to listen to our feelings. I was in Papua New Guinea. I was going there alone in the mountain for a few days, and I arrived in a tribe, and it was such an amazing experience. Those people were living naked with crown of feathers around their eyes. They were bows and arrows. That was really, really another era. And I was there, and I got introduced to the chief of the village to ask if I could spend the night with them. And so I went in this hut that was made with stones and hay, and I was sitting with the chief of the village, and for 3 hours, we sat in front of each other, in front of the fire, without talking. We could barely communicate, right? And I realized that's insane. I've never been so much in the present moment that I was at that day. And I realized all of them living so close to nature, they're so much in the present moment, so much more than we are. Because think of it, you're in your car, red traffic light, or you're waiting at a bus stop, or you're waiting somewhere. The first thing we do, we take a phone. We take a phone and we start swiping. We lose the ability to sit still with our thoughts and our own feeling, because we have so many distractions and entertainment around ourselves. And building this discipline back, and meditation is amazing for that, but it can just be no screens, leave me alone in a room, and just let yourself experience whatever you experience in that moment. And this practice really changed a lot for me. And it's super simple, right? It's to start creating this ability to sit with your own thoughts and feeling again. Thank you, guys.
It's funny you said meditation, because there are two other things I do to be able to take everything away and just enjoy the moment and be in the moment. One is camping.
Oh.
In my younger days, every Friday, my husband went from work and set up camp, and we did tent camping. And I would finish work, and he was in the university, so he actually had a shorter Fridays than me. So he would go and pitch the tent and set up tent, and I would go join him after work. And every weekend in the summer, we camped in Chicago, right?
Wow.
And that was about being in the nature, enjoying the stars, being in that moment, and getting to know the community and the other campers around. And so to me, camping was about being in that moment, and it was very, very healthy for the marriage too, because we had to figure stuff out and we had to be creative, and we didn't have any of the luxuries of the day-to-day.
Yeah.
And the other thing we do as we get older is cruising, because there's no Wi-Fi on a cruise ship. Okay. You've got to put your devices away, and there's a different kind of being in the moment. So it's more luxurious. So the tent camping is one extreme, the cruising is another extreme, and then the meditation is part of everyday life. So in my family, we integrate all these three things so that we can intentionally be in the moment to have fun, be with nature, and step into our spirituality. All three things are possible. So I just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, no, I love it that you have different ways of doing it that you can do daily. You don't need anything. You can just sit down on your pillow and do it. And other things that you create an environment that is a bit maybe more exciting, more different, a bit more novelty in it. And then you also create the same space. What's important is to create the space intentionally. No, thank you.
Yes. And I do my best writing when I'm cruising.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And Elisa, do you have any questions or thoughts before I wrap this up? Wanted to make sure I give you the opportunity. We have a couple of minutes.
I didn't have any specific questions, but I don't know how you guys covered so many topics in such short of time. It was very impressive. So very inspirational. I definitely think I resonated with a lot of the areas that you touched on for sure. And just, that it's a journey. Everybody's at a different point in the process. And I think that continuing not to give up and focus on being your best self and is one of the things that everybody should aspire to do. And yeah, I don't know how you covered so much, because I can't even concisely give you a synopsis of it. But I've really enjoyed listening to you speak. So
thank you, Elisa. I love what you said, that it's a journey, and wherever we are on the journey, we are on the right place. And when we realize, hey, chill, I'm at just the right place, I'm just where I should exactly be right now. And that's this process of trusting life also a little bit more, thinking whatever happened to me, whatever is going to happen to me is for my own growth. And there is a moment we cannot really hear that always, but when we trust life and we can just realize everything is happening for me, right? And then we can navigate everything better. Thank you.
Right. And and it's always important to remember too that other people, where they are too, because like how you had mentioned, when you're finding purpose in your pain and the loss, that if people had spoken to you about that at that point, that it would not have gone over well. And I think sometimes people, they will have fear of saying things to people because they're not kind of aware of where that person is at that moment. But I always try to encourage people, just, you can share your experiences, to be vulnerable, because the times in my life that I didn't think were impacting somebody else are the ones that have come back, or they, wrote in a letter like, it was this piece that you said that changed my life, or, something like that. And I'm like, really? Like that was what, but so you never know. And it's just part of trying. And like you said, looking at how you want people to view you, and you're going to make mistakes. But just keep learning. So, and I think you guys covered a lot of great tips of how to get there. For sure.
Yeah, no, I love what you said. That's sometimes we don't know the impact of our words, and that comes back to what Cassie said. Like, it's really about keep trusting and speaking from your heart, instead of being too much in the mental thing. Oh, I'm going to try to impact people. Like let me stop trying to do that. Let me try to just show up as an example of someone who keeps growing in this journey, right? Not an example of perfection, absolutely not, but an example of someone who's striving for excellence. And just by doing that, it's leading. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elisa. This has been an amazing conversation, Francois. I have enjoyed this, and I know our audience, as they watch this on the YouTube release, are going to tremendously embrace this. So thank you. Thank you for being present. Thank you for being in the moment and truly engaging in a meaningful conversation. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, time and tide waits for no one, right? Reference to the tsunami once again. The tide comes and goes with its own vigor, with its own velocity, with its own impact.
Yeah.
And how do we take a lesson from that? And how do we impactfully make sure that we are intentionally taking every step so that our time here in this earth, that is very limited, is truly building a legacy that we can be proud of, and the ones who come behind us can benefit from. And that is ultimately the secret to having a happy life, because ultimately we're all looking to be happy, whatever we define that happiness to be. So coming back to the feeling, I want to wish everybody a happy and a prosperous life. And as you embrace that prosperous life, remember, it is going to take these kind of conversations and vulnerable moments to truly tap into who you are and become better than you were yesterday. And as you go through that process, remember, you're not just transforming yourself, you're transforming everybody else alongside as you take your purposeful journey.